Now starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 10th. I'm Donna Will, Professional Development Coordinator for the Developmental Disabilities Administration. We welcome you to the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families webinar series, and the title of our webinar today is MarylandABLE, Achieving a Better Life Experience. This session is being facilitated by Kane-Breschi, Director of Family Supports for DDA. Her special guests include Kelly Nelson from the Outreach and Communications for MarylandABLE and her daughter Lily Nelson, who is a self-advocate. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. All participants are in listen-only mode. There are two options for listening to the webinar, by computer and phone. And if you have trouble hearing, you can switch by clicking on the button in the audio panel. There are handouts for this webinar. There's 4 of them, and you can find them in the handout section in the panel to your right. They can also be emailed if you're listening by phone. We are recording the webinar, and we'd like to hear from you and get your feedback on today's presentation and any suggestions you might have for future topics. Please use the question or chat box at the right, in the webinar panel to ask a question. In addition, we're interested in highlighting how people with disabilities and their families are connecting during this pandemic throughout the webinar series. If you're interested in sharing your story, please contact Mary Ann Kane-Breschi directly at mary.kane-breschi@maryland.gov or me, donna.will@maryland.gov. If you have questions related to your family member services, please contact your local regional office. So now I'd like to introduce Mary Ann Kane-Breschi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Donna. Thank you. And good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families, we welcome you to our webinar. For those of you who don't know, the purpose of this series for supporting families is to bring people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, family members, and others together in order to connect, share information, learn, share ideas, all in an effort to support one another in the development of our knowledge and our skills and build resiliency within ourselves and the community. This initially got started because of COVID, but we are certainly making our way through COVID and beginning to look at reopening and getting back to community life. And so we have this, in order to do that, we are discussing and addressing a variety of topics and concerns with which individuals and families have faced and are facing, not only related to COVID and now reopening, but everyday life. We do this with the help of invited guests or subject matter experts, and we do all of this. A discussion is always done through the lens of Charting the Life Course framework. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Charting the Life Course, it is a set of universal principles and tools. Its fundamental principle states that all people have the right to live, love, learn, work, and play, and pursue their aspirations in the community. Charting the Life Course was developed by the University of Missouri, Kansas City, their Institute for Human Development and Family-to-Family program. It was developed by people with disabilities and family members caring for people with disabilities to assist other people with DD and families to create a vision for a good life. It also was intended to help them think about what they need to know, navigate and or develop supports and resources, and finally discover what it's going to take to live lives of their choosing and do it. The principle that we're focused on today is individual and family supports, otherwise known as the 3 buckets. Within Charting the Life Course, the goal of individual and family support is that as a system, we want to provide supports that are flexible to meet the needs of people and their family members as they change and grow throughout their lives across the lifespan. Today, we're focusing on the discovery and navigation bucket. So there are 3 buckets, right? You've got discovery and navigation, connecting and networking, goods and services. Discovery and navigation focuses on information and training. In any which way you might think about that. Connecting and networking, we're thinking about peer-to-peer supports, family-to-family, peers to peers, obviously, and places where folks can come together and connect with one another, learn from each other, and really build their knowledge and strength. Goods and services refer to day-to-day service. It could be Medicaid services, special education, DD services, financial supports, etc. But today, we're focusing on discovery and navigation because we're going to provide you with information regarding information and discuss how people with disabilities and their families can save money without jeopardizing state or federal benefits such as SSI, Medicaid, waiver services, etc., in order to create and live their good life. To help us do that, we have two wonderful guests. We have Kelly Nelson and her daughter Lily, who are here with us. So thank you both for being here, sharing your time and your expertise. But let me tell you a little bit about Kelly. Kelly has worked in the field of disability for more than 30 years. She has served in many roles supporting people with disabilities and their families through advocacy, education, and connecting them to vital resources within their community. As a parent of a child with disabilities, Kelly is passionate about helping her daughter to become a confident self-advocate as she pursues her goals of working and living independently in the community. As the outreach and communications manager for MarylandABLE, she is delighted to have the opportunity to connect with many people with disabilities, their families, and the staff that support them as she travels throughout Maryland, educating people about the benefits of having an ABLE account. Through her outreach endeavors, Kelly is excited to see how her work with MarylandABLE is helping to promote personal choice, independence, and economic stability for people with disabilities. Welcome, Kelly, and please introduce us to Lily.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I have been looking forward to this. I really have. Believe me when I tell you, it is the favorite part of my job, being able to connect with people with disabilities and their families and share information about ABLE accounts. But today is actually very special for me because I'm joined today by my daughter, Lily, who, amongst many other things, is a self-advocate as well as an owner and beneficiary of a MarylandABLE account. And since Lily is under the age of 18, I help her manage her ABLE account as serving as her authorized legal representative. So between the two of us, we have some practical experience with ABLE accounts, don't we, Lily? And we thought we would team up together today and answer any questions that you have and share with you also, how having an ABLE account has really helped Lily and supported her in exercising her personal choice. It's helping her to build her independence, and it's also really taught her some very valuable financial literacy skills as well. And just speaking as a parent, it's also been such a helpful tool to her dad and I to be able to use ABLE accounts as a way to plan and prepare for her future. So I know, Lily, you want to introduce yourself. Why don't you go ahead and say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Lily, and I'm 17 years old. And I'm in 10th grade.
And what do you like to do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I like to do dance classes, and I also like to make YouTube videos and Zoom with my friends.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, Lily. I'm excited. Hopefully we'll have some good questions that you and I can answer together.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to you both. We're honored to have you both and are just looking to learn from you. So let's get started. Kelly, can you tell us what is an ABLE account?
Well, MarylandABLE accounts are a way for people with disabilities and their families to finally be able to save money without jeopardizing state or federal means-tested benefits. Those are things like SSI, Medicaid, and waiver services.
Can you tell us why would a person, or why do people open ABLE accounts?
Well, people open ABLE accounts for many different reasons, and I think one of the biggest benefits for ABLE accounts, especially for people that receive SSI cash benefits, is that for decades they've had this real challenge in that they've not been able to save more than $2,000 or even have more than $2,000 in a regular bank account without jeopardizing their SSI benefits. And this has just created such a challenge for self-advocates because they're not really able to plan and prepare for their future or for save for things that are important to them. I mean, it just, imagine me saying to you, what's important to you, Marianne? What would you like to do in the future? What are your plans? What are your dreams and goals? And save for that. But by the way, you can't do that if you want to save more than $2,000. So thanks to the ABLE legislation, it made it possible for people to be able to save beyond that $2,000 and actually be able to save up to $100,000 in an ABLE account. And that has, you know, been wonderful because they didn't have to worry about jeopardizing those SSI cash benefits as long as they stayed below that balance. The other reason is that, you know, people are able to save and invest in the future, for their future, and things that are important to them without worrying about losing those other benefits like Medicaid and those waiver services, the food and housing and energy assistance. So that's been a real game changer for people with disabilities to finally be able to save for things for their future, and that's important. The other benefit is that the funds that are saved or invested in an ABLE account, you don't have to pay federal or state taxes on those earnings, not while the money is in the ABLE account and not when you take it out, provided that you're using the money in the ABLE account for what we call qualified disability expenses. Another reason people open, especially families, or this is a big incentive for them to open ABLE accounts, is that you can access an income deduction on your Maryland state taxes. So if you make contributions to an ABLE account and you live in Maryland and pay Maryland state taxes, you can access an income deduction up to $2,500 per person per contributor. So that is also a very helpful way to be able to save. Also, ABLE accounts are just easy to enroll in, and they're easy account management because everything is done online. So it's very easy to do this. Doesn't take a long legal process. It's, you know, you can set, I think Lily and I, when we opened yours, it probably took me about 15 minutes to have the whole thing set up. So that was really easy. And the best part is that people have easy access to their funds.
Absolutely. I have a quick question for you with regard to the Maryland state income tax deduction up to $2,500 per contributor. So my daughter has 3 brothers. If they were each to make contributions to her account, they themselves have, I want to understand this a little bit better. They themselves receive a $2,500 tax deduction. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
So that's a great question. Yes, since anyone can contribute to an ABLE account, anyone that lives in Maryland and pays Maryland taxes can have access to that income deduction. So if her brothers contributed $2,500, they could use that as an income deduction on their Maryland taxes. It doesn't apply to federal. So let's just look at, say, grandma who lives maybe in Florida. If she makes a contribution to your daughter's account, that would be fine. She just wouldn't be able to access that income deduction.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so tell me, who can open an account?
So there's basically just 2 criteria to have an ABLE account. And the first is that you have to have had the experienced the disability prior to your 26th birthday. And the second criteria is that you have to meet the Social Security Administration's definition of a disability. So if you're already receiving SSI or SSDI, we know that you qualify because Social Security has already examined all of your documentation and they see that you do meet that definition. But there may be some of you that are listening right now, yourself, or you have a family member that's currently not receiving SSI benefits, and that is okay. As long as you have a disability that meets that Social Security definition, you would still qualify. And the way that you would support that eligibility is that you would go onto our website at www.MarylandABLE.org, and we'll show this information again at a little bit later on a slide. But you can go onto our website. At the bottom of the website, there's a resource section. You can click on forms, and that's where you'll find all the forms that you would need for a MarylandABLE account. And you just print off that disability certification form, and the next time you visit your physician, you would just have your doctor fill it out and sign it, and you keep that documentation. You don't need to mail it in to Maryland-ABLE. You would just keep that documentation.
Okay, great. So now that we understand who can open an account, if I, as my daughter's mother, I open the account for her, who owns the account?
Lily, do you want to tell us who owns your ABLE account?
I do.
Yay.
Right, it's you are the owner and the beneficiary of your ABLE account. So with all ABLE accounts, the person with the disability owns and operates the ABLE account. So if the ABLE account holder needs help managing his or her account, we certainly understand that some people do need help with that. An authorized legal representative can be appointed. And so just to save a little time, I'm just going to refer to this authorized legal representative from here on out as an ALR. But an ALR can be appointed to help the person manage the account, but it is always going to be the person with the disability that is both the owner and the beneficiary of the ABLE account. If you have an ABLE account for a child who's under the age of 18, then a parent or a legal guardian can serve as the ALR. But if the account holder is over the age of 18, the account owner must give permission or consent to have someone serve as the ALR. And the ALR would need to have either legal guardianship or have power of attorney over at least property. So right now, Lily is, I am Lily's ALR, but when she turns 18, she'll have to provide consent for me to stay on as her ALR and help her manage her account if she needs it. And we can take care of that by just getting power of attorney over property. All right, and right now the way it's set up is that a person can only have one ABLE account, okay? One ABLE account per beneficiary.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a limit on how much a person can put or folks can donate into the person's ABLE account?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's a couple of numbers we want to keep in mind. First of all, when you open your ABLE account, there'll need to be an initial deposit, and that's a $25 deposit into the ABLE account. That's not a fee, that's the person's money to establish the account. After that, you can make contributions to your ABLE account whenever you choose to do it, and you determine how much. But there is, Lily, tell us about the minimum contribution level. When you choose to make contributions to your ABLE account, how much do you have to save up from your allowance?
$10.
That's right. So sometimes she chooses to spend her money from her allowance, and a lot of times you want to do what with it?
Put it in my MarylandABLE account.
Correct. And you usually have to save up that $10. So after that, as long as the minimum is met of $10, you can make a contribution whenever you want. The important thing to know about ABLE is that currently there's a $15,000 standard annual contribution limit for the ABLE account. So anyone can contribute money into your ABLE account, but you can't contribute more than $15,000 per calendar year. So right away, we can kind of see that this is a limitation in that if someone were to pass away and leave you or your family member an inheritance of $30,000, you can't put $30,000 into an ABLE account all at one time. If there's been an insurance settlement and it's a large sum of money, you still can only contribute up to $15,000 a year. So in a situation like that, a better option for those large amounts of large contribution amounts would be looking into a special needs trust to be able to protect those assets. The other thing is that, of course, I just told you about that $15,000 standard annual contribution limit, and then I'm going to turn around and going to tell you that there's a way that you can actually contribute above and beyond that limit, and that is for the folks that are eligible for able to work contributions. They can contribute up to an additional $12,760 if they qualify for able to work. And remember that $100,000 that we talked about a little while ago when we were talking about the difference between that $2,000 asset limit and MarylandABLE giving you the opportunity to save up to $100,000. If your account balance in your ABLE account should exceed $100,000, what would happen is your Social Security cash benefits would go into a state of suspension. Now, this is different from being disenrolled from your SSI benefits. You're going into a state of suspension. But what would happen is your Medicaid and those waivers would remain. And at any point that your balance were to fall below 100,000, let's just say you had to put, make modifications to your home, put a wheelchair ramp on or something, and you spent $20,000 and that balance fell from 100 to 80,000. What would happen is Social Security is able to reactivate those cash benefits at that time. So that's very different from being disenrolled and having to apply all over again for those benefits. And then the last number that we want to keep in mind is the $500,000 account balance limit, which after that point, we can no longer accept contributions to an ABLE account. But as you can tell, like if you're only able to contribute $15,000 a year, it's going to take some time before you'd reach that $500,000 limit. And the important thing to notice about this is that, you know, this number does change from time to time. This is actually, since we are partner agencies or partners within an agency with Maryland 529, the College Savings Plan folks, this number is tied to their account balance limit, which is, and this is going to be your fun fact of the day, this $500,000 is the amount at which a child born today, by the time they're college age, this is going to be the cost of a 4-year, 5-year college education. So that is your extra bonus fun fact of the day.
Wow. Okay, can you, Kelly, would you mind telling us a little bit more about able to work contributions?
Oh yes, I love talking about able to work contributions. So again, if you meet some criteria for able to work, you can make those additional contributions. And the eligibility is this: you have to be an account holder who's employed. You have to be working. And as long as you or your employer is not contributing to a retirement account, as long as you're not actively contributing to a retirement account, these are things like 401ks or 403bs, any type of retirement account, you would be eligible to contribute an additional amount of money to your ABLE account. So the maximum account limit, the maximum limit that you could contribute would be $12,760. And this is an amount that's going to go up from time to time. It usually goes up every year because it's tied or it's equal to the federal poverty level for a one-person household. So as that number changes from year to year, so will the maximum able to work contribution amount. And this is going to be equal to the gross income that you make. For example, if you have a job and you're making $5,000 a year, you could contribute, if you wanted to, you could contribute the full amount, your $5,000. But if you were to get a full-time job and you get a raise and you're making $20,000 a year, the maximum that you could contribute above and beyond that $15,000 limit would still be the $12,760 for this calendar year. And I like to point out that some folks I know have been receiving unemployment benefits checks. You can actually count these towards your able to work contributions, but it's important to note that you can't count that able to work, those unemployment benefits, they're not counted towards your gross income for the current year. So if you make $5,000 a year, that's your gross income. You don't count that unemployment towards that amount.
Okay. Well, so you talked about it a little bit. I mean, you've alluded to it as to who can make contributions to the account, but can we talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah. So the great news about ABLE accounts is anybody can contribute to ABLE accounts. Anyone. It could be yourself, it's family, it's friends. It could be earned income, your unemployment funds, your economic stimulus payment, small inheritances, small settlements, or even a rollover from a 529 college savings plan.
Okay. Are there tax benefits for contributions to a MarylandABLE account?
Yes, and we talked about that a little bit before, in that if you are a Maryland state resident, you're paying Maryland state taxes, you are eligible to access that income deduction up to $2,500 per person per ABLE account. So we do know that there's families out there that have children or family members that have more. That have more than one, person that has an ABLE account, so they can access that income deduction per person per ABLE account. If a parents are married and filing joint, then they can access a $5,000 income deduction off their Maryland state taxes. So that is really helpful. And as you said before, like in the situations with your sons, if they wanted to contribute to their sister's ABLE account, they too can access that as long as they live in Maryland.
That's great. That's terrific. Now, a big question. How can the money in the ABLE account be spent or utilized?
So money in an ABLE account can be spent on what we call qualified disability expenses. And the way it's written in our regulations, a QDE is anything that supports the person, the account holder, in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. So this is a very broad definition, and it was purposely written this way because they recognize that everybody is unique and has different needs to support them in their health, independence, and quality of life. So what you're looking at on this slide is just some basic categories to help you think of things that you could use for your ABLE account. But Lily, let me ask you, what are some of the things that you have been able to use your ABLE account for?
I'll use my ABLE account for my gifting page.
You do, but can you give us some examples of things that you can pay for, things that you've been able to buy with your ABLE account?
I can buy sneakers.
Right. So last year, Lily wanted to try out for the track team, right?
Yeah.
And she needed shoes for that, special shoes. So we were able to go to Target, and what did you do?
I bought sneakers for my MarylandABLE account.
You did, because, and this is a great example of how sneakers or athletic shoes, how can that be a qualified disability expense? Well, they support her in her health. I mean, being part of the track team is a great opportunity for exercise. It's also contributing to her quality of life because it's something she's always wanted to do. It was an opportunity to be in an inclusive sport where she could meet people in the community, people that are typically developing peers as well. So it was something that supported her in a couple of those areas. So what I always recommend for families to do, or if the account holder to do, is always maintain your receipts just for documentation. The bottom line is, guys, a qualified disability expense has to be determined by the account owner or the ALR. So before you use ABLE funds to make a purchase, you have to ask yourself, does this service or does this purchase, does it support me in my health, in my independence, or in my quality of life? And if it does, then you can decide to use your ABLE funds to make that purchase. But what I would recommend that you do is keep that receipt. And some people do this, others don't, but you can even just jot a little note, on that receipt. Athletic shoes for track team, supports Lily in her health, exercise, okay? Things like that. And honestly, you don't have to submit those receipts to MarylandABLE, but the only person that may ever ask you to see those receipts would be the IRS in the event of an audit. So people with ABLE accounts, they're not any more likely to be audited by the IRS, but they're also not any less likely. So in the event that you're lucky enough to be audited, the IRS is going to want to know a couple of things. Number one, do you qualify to have this tax advantage savings account? And they're going to want to know by saying, hey, do you have the disability certification form, or are you receiving SSI or SSDI? The other thing they're going to want to know is, how are you spending the money? And as long as you can provide documentation to them, you have to make that decision of what qualifies. But when you're looking at these categories, let's look at health, prevention, and wellness. So these are, when we went to the doctor, you just had your appointment to see the doctor. What did we do with that your MarylandABLE card? We used it to pay for her co-pays, for your prescriptions when you need medicine, right? Some people use this for gym memberships to support them in their health. I mean, you can see there's lots of examples here. Under assistive technology, that could be screen readers, it could be any type of equipment, but it could also be something as simple as a cell phone that supports you in your communication. Transportation could be Ubers or taxis. Education, it could be for tutoring, it could be for books, it could be for tuition to college. So there's so many things that you can use the ABLE account to pay for, but these are just some basic guidelines.
Okay. So now that we know a little bit about what we can use it for, how does one, or how does a family member, whomever who's interested in putting money into the account, how do they do that? And then how does the individual take the money out so that they're able to spend it, for these qualified disability expenses?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so you're going to need to link your MarylandABLE account with an existing bank account. And this is the bank account of your choosing. It could be your checking account, it could be a savings account. Right now, because I'm serving as Lily's ALR, the most convenient option for her dad and I, since we're funding her account, she doesn't receive benefits right now and she doesn't have a job, so we're funding her account. We've linked it to our personal checking account. However, when Lily turns 18 and hopefully she's going to get a job and most likely is going to qualify for benefits, we can switch it over and change it to her checking account. But you do need to link it because it's an online banking savings and investment tool. You can, once that account is established, you log in to your MarylandABLE account and you can make contributions or withdrawals online. So if I wanted to, if I had to purchase something for Lily and I paid for it for her, I could go online, log into her ABLE account, and transfer money from her ABLE account back into my checking account to reimburse me for what it is that I had purchased for her. I would just keep a copy of that payment, that receipt, that check, whatever, to show that's how I use the money. You can also, if you need to, you could deposit or request paper checks. However, there's an additional fee if you're going to ask for disbursements from your ABLE account using a paper check, and it also takes a lot longer. So we recommend people taking advantage of that online banking version of it. You can also get the MarylandABLE prepaid card, which is another way, and I know we'll probably talk about that a little bit because Lily loves talking about her prepaid card. But if you do choose the prepaid card option or paper checks, there are additional fees to go that route.
Okay, all right. So we're all very interested in the economic stimulus payments. How does the ABLE account help with this?
ABLE accounts have been really helpful to people that receive the economic stimulus payment because without having the ABLE account, some people have been in danger of becoming over-resourced and going above and beyond that $2,000 asset limit. So we have had a lot of people who have chosen to contribute part or all of their economic stimulus payment into their ABLE account, because what this does is it gives them more time to decide how they want to use that money. There is I think it's been a year now probably since we've started receiving that first round of stimulus payments. And the way it's set up is that Social Security does not count those economic stimulus payments as assets for the first 12 months. But after the first 12 months after you receive that stimulus payment, whatever is left of that stimulus payment will count towards the $2,000 SSI asset limit if it remains in a regular account, like your savings or checking account. If you deposit the money into an ABLE account, it will not count towards that $2,000 asset limit, of course, unless you're beyond the $100,000 in your ABLE account. But this just gives you more time to decide how you want to use it. You can choose to save it for down the road, or you could be saving up for something that's more expensive and you need to just be able to conserve and save a little more money and you're waiting to purchase that item. So it gives you some extra time. I also like to point out the Medicaid update that we have, that basically the 12-month grace period is going to apply to Medicaid as well. So the stimulus payments are not counted as income when determining your eligibility for Medicaid for medical coverage, but any amount remaining after that 12 months will be counted as an asset at that time, but not before. That's why it's been so helpful to people to have ABLE accounts to be able to put that additional money. You know, when we haven't been able to go anywhere, right? We're not out shopping, we're not out eating, we're not out, going to the movies. And so people have found that they haven't spent as much of the economic stimulus payment as they thought that they normally would have. So it's been a great option to be able to put that into an ABLE account.
Yeah, this is really great news. And it just, it's so important to be able to save for any of us, and particularly for those things that are important to us and we want in our lives, and the ability to place the stimulus check into the ABLE account, protecting it, right, is huge. Can you talk about other saving and or investment options for the money, for one's money in the ABLE account?
So when you open a MarylandABLE account, we have a couple of ways that you can save or invest your money. The first is what we call the cash savings option. And this is an FDIC insured banking product, very similar to a savings account that you may have with another bank, okay? So that is one option. The other is that you could choose to invest your money. And with our investment option, we have 3 different choices. We have the conservative, moderate, or aggressive option. And if you choose the investment option, these are going to be funds that are managed by Vanguard. And you could select to participate in either any one of these 3 different options. The conservative option is where they're going to purchase for you a fund that consists of 80% are going to be in government bonds, and the 20% is going to be in the stock market. So your investment is going to maybe not earn as high of a yield as if you had more in stocks, but then again, it's a little bit more of a safer choice because so much of it is invested in bonds. The moderate choice is where you invest in a 50-50 split between bonds and stocks. And the aggressive option is when you can invest 16% in bonds, so that's not very much in bonds, but 84% is going to be in stock. So for some people that are looking for ABLE accounts as a very long-term investment, some people might choose that option because they're willing to have time on their side. They just want to, people open ABLE accounts when their kids are young, and they just want to take advantage of that, tax advantages, not paying taxes on the earnings, and they want the long-term solution. Other folks are saying, hey, I'm depositing my own income. I want to use my ABLE account all throughout the month. I don't want my money invested in any investments because I want to make sure that I can get to that money quickly and pay for what I need to now. So it's really up to you. There's no right or wrong. This is a very individualized choice, and we always recommend that people seek guidance from financial planners or tax accountants, somebody that can help you make these kind of decisions, how you need to access your money and what your risk tolerance is for investments. It's important to know, though, that you can choose between investing some in the cash savings option, and you can also invest some in one of the investment options. So, for example, you want to maybe experiment a little bit with investments. You can put 20% in investments and 80% in the cash option. So that's one of your choices. And the good news is you can change that investment strategy up to twice a calendar year. All you have to do is log onto your ABLE account, go in there and change the investment strategy. It's very easy to do.
Okay, terrific. So Kelly, a few moments ago, you did speak about some fees related to the prepaid card and checks. Are there fees in general for having an ABLE account?
Yes, there is a $35 annual account maintenance fee, and this is withdrawn directly from your ABLE account. It's going to be withdrawn quarterly at $8.75. It's also important to know that ABLE accounts are prorated. So, for example, someone that opens an ABLE account yesterday isn't going to pay the full $35 because they didn't have the ABLE account for January or February, right? There's also some asset-based fees if people choose the investment option.
Okay. Are there any features that are particular or unique to the MarylandABLE account?
Yes, we do have a couple of features that are unique to Maryland that we're really proud to, that we think really enhances the MarylandABLE program. And one of those is the gifting page. And I'm going to have Lily talk about the gifting page because that is one of her favorite features about her MarylandABLE account. So Lily, tell us a little bit about the gifting page. What do you use your gifting page for?
I like to use my gifting page so I can save for a goal.
Well, what kind of goal are you saving for? What are you saving it for?
To go to Disney World.
Okay, so that's been something that you've wanted to do for as long as you can remember, right? Take a special trip to Disney. So since you've decided to save for this goal, you decided that instead of getting toys or video games or whatever for your birthday or for the holidays, you've been asking people to make a contribution, your family, your friends, make a contribution to your MarylandABLE account. How do you do that?
All you have to do is just email and or text it.
Okay, great. So what's great about the MarylandABLE online gifting page is you go online, you set it up, and then you can just copy and paste that link to the gifting page. You can send it by text, you can send it through email. Some people even put it on, send it out through Facebook, however you choose to do that. Is it hard to do it?
No, it's very easy.
What about the people that give you gifts? Is it easy or hard for them to do it? How do they like it?
It's easy for them to do it as well.
It is easy, right? They just click on that link and they can make a contribution to her ABLE account and support her in her goals. And we find that a lot of people, a lot of our ABLE account holders are activating and using their gifting page because family and friends want to support. They want to support you in your goals. We've seen people use this gifting page because they're athletes in Special Olympics and they're saving for to go on a trip for a competition, and people want to support them for that. We've also seen families use this during times of just a lot of medical expenses, and people are happy to support them in health and recovery. So people use it for that. So you really can just decide however if there's a special goal that you're saving for your first apartment or furniture for your first apartment, sending that gifting page out, people do want to support. And I just found out recently that since MarylandABLE has been in existence, which we're a little over 3 years old now, we have almost 3,000 account holders now. And between all the people that are using this gifting platform, okay, not everybody does, but many of them do, over the last 3 years have received, are you ready for this, over $1.8 million in gifts for all the people that have been receiving gifts. So that goes to show you that this is a great and easy tool to have people help support you in your goals. The other option that we have is our prepaid card option. So a prepaid card, while it looks like a credit card, it's not a line of credit. It's actually a card that's linked to the MarylandABLE account that you load with a certain amount of money. So it doesn't give a person access to all the funds in the ABLE account, but rather the account holder or the ALR can decide how much money they want to transfer over or load onto the prepaid card. So sometimes people will put, $200-300 every couple of months onto the prepaid card, and then you can use that card anywhere online or in the community, and it's a really quick, fast, easy access to the ABLE account funds. Lily, I know you love talking about your prepaid card. Why do you like having the prepaid card?
Because I can buy things.
Right, it's your own card with your name on it. It's just really empowering to be able to give her the opportunity to practice spending, saving, and budgeting. She has her own card to make her own purchases, and it really takes a lot of pressure off. Remember when we would go to the store and we'd practice a lot with money and cash, and you're trying to make the purchases, and sometimes there was a little bit of anxiety, right, when you got up to the register. But how easy is it to just put your prepaid card in there?
It's
very easy. So she gets to make her own purchases, and it's a lot less stressful on her. The other thing that's really awesome about it is that it is a very easy and convenient way for record keeping. All of the purchases that you make with the prepaid card, there's a report of it, and it's sent into different categories so you can see how much you're spending on health, how much is for, clothing or whatever. It's really a nice way to keep track of all your receipts, and you can upload those receipts as well if you want to maintain them there. You can customize your spending and alert features, so lots of really cool things available. I could talk for like 30 minutes alone on this prepaid card, and I know we don't have time for that, but I do just want to point out, just as a parent, it has been such a helpful tool for me to help Lily build some financial literacy skills, because she's been able to see how when we transfer this money on her ABLE card and she's able to make purchases, she's also see that, you know, other things are tied to this prepaid card, like her AT&T cell phone, you know, that comes off of that as well. So she's beginning to learn, oh, you know, wow, so I have to spend money on the cell phone. It's not free to have a cell phone. I have to pay for this, and I have to realize that not all the money that I have is for me to just spend. Some of it I have to save, some of it I have to save for when I make a payment on that cell phone. So we're learning a lot about just saving and spending. So it's important to remember that although this is a very quick and convenient way to access the money in your ABLE account, it's not for everybody. Someone that opens an ABLE account that's really just using it as a long-term savings, it's not worth paying the $15 a year that it's going to cost to have a prepaid card, because they don't access the money that often. It's just better for them to log online, transfer the money into their account. But if you're a person who accesses the funds in the ABLE account, like Lily does, like I do, it's very convenient for us. But there is that $1.25 a month fee to have the prepaid card. And you know, the last thing that we want to talk about is the payroll deduction. And this is a convenient way for those of you who are working that want to just make a direct contribution from your paycheck to your ABLE account. You can go on our website and download the form. Currently, it's only available to account holders and beneficiaries.
Okay. Let me, this is tremendous. You've sold me. So how would my daughter open an ABLE account, and what do we need to do in order to do that?
Okay, great. So in order to open an ABLE account, you would just visit our website, which is the www.MarylandABLE.org. And we really encourage you to actually type out that URL address, because sometimes when people Google MarylandABLE, what happens is something pops up that says ABLE Now in Maryland. And unfortunately, people have clicked on that link, opened an ABLE account, only to find out that they have registered and enrolled in an ABLE account in Virginia. So we really encourage you to actually type out that whole address, MarylandABLE.org, because while we would love for you to be with MarylandABLE, we realize that you do have choices. There are 44 ABLE programs across the nation. So you do have a choice in where you want to open an ABLE account. But the point is that we want you to know where you're enrolling in your ABLE account. You know, there are certain benefits by opening an account in your own state, like that income deduction. And those folks that opened it in the other program, they were very upset to find out that they did not qualify for that income deduction on their Maryland state taxes. Once you're at our website, you can do a couple of things. We've got a great section there called Frequently Asked Questions, FAQs. You can go there and type in your question and get some great answers there. Again, there's the forms. Everything that you could need is going to be at that bottom of the website under resources, forms. You click there, download anything you need. But most importantly, we have our program disclosure book that you can access, and you can we definitely recommend that you read it, look through that. It'll give you all the answers that you could possibly ask about ABLE accounts would be found in our program disclosure book. But when you are ready to open the ABLE account, Marianne, if you want to click to the next slide, because
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say there's something there that I want to point out to everyone on this next slide. You know, there's going to be a little button in the upper right-hand corner that says Open an Account Now. You just click on that, and when you get to that page, you're going to see what you see on the left-hand side of the slide, where it says Someday, a BNY Mellon company. You know, with so many things going on with fraud and people hacking into accounts, we want to point out that it's okay when you see Someday, a BNY Mellon company. This is our program manager. This is the banking side of MarylandABLE. As as a MarylandABLE, we are facilitated by the state of Maryland, but we're not a bank. So we can't make investments and contributions to your bank account and access your bank account. We had to partner with a financial institution, and we have partnered with the Bank of New York Mellon, and Someday is their subsidiary that takes care of all that back end banking stuff. Okay, they operate our customer support team, and they also are in charge of maintaining our website. So don't be alarmed when you see that. Once you get to that part where you're ready to open an ABLE account, you're going to need some basic information. You're going to need the social security number for both the account owner as well as the ALR if there's an ALR involved, okay? And remember, if you're an ALR for someone who's over the age of 18, someone that's an adult, you're going to need to have consent to serve as the ALR, and you can do that by providing documentation. You upload it electronically if you want. This is going to be things like copies of guardianship or power of attorney, okay? The third element that you're going to need to think about is that linked bank account we talked about a little while ago. So this is whatever bank account, savings or checking account that is most convenient for you. It can be with any bank. It could be a savings and loan. It doesn't matter. You choose which one. But remember, this is how you're going to link your savings or checking account to your ABLE account. And it's one of the ways that you can make contributions and withdrawals for QDEs directly with that linked bank account.
Terrific. So let me ask you this, and you spoke to it a little bit before, but I'm going to ask you, it warrants addressing again. How much money does a person need to open their ABLE account or to get it started?
Yeah. So you can open an ABLE account with a minimum contribution of $25. And again, once you make that initial contribution, it's totally up to you when you make that next deposit and how much. But remember, that minimum deposit after that has to be at least $10. We have a couple of numbers that since we're coming to the end of our time together already, I just wanted to put up some other numbers that we've talked about just as a little reminder. That $35 annual maintenance fee, remember, and that's prorated, and it is also withdrawn directly from your ABLE account quarterly. For those who choose the prepaid card, there is that additional fee of $1.25 per month. That $15,000 is your annual contribution limit. Remember, anybody can contribute towards that contribution limit, but if you are eligible for able to work contributions, you can contribute up to $12,760 if you qualify. And whenever you make contributions to your ABLE account, there'll be a prompt there that says, is this deposit or is this contribution going towards your standard contribution limit, or is it going to able to work? So if you're eligible, always choose the able to work. That way you leave that $15,000 limit open for anyone who wants to contribute. Then we talked about that $100,000 account balance limit. Remember, if you exceed $100,000, your SSI cash benefits would go into a state of suspension. You would not be disenrolled, but rather a state of suspension, and your Medicaid and waiver services would remain. At any point your account balance were to fall below that $100,000 account balance, then Social Security would be able to reactivate those cash benefits. And $500,000 is the lifetime account balance limit, after which we couldn't accept any additional contributions to the ABLE account until your balance fell below that $500,000 limit, account balance. And $2,500 is going to be your state income deduction per contributor per ABLE account for Maryland state taxpayers.
Wonderful. This is just such tremendous and useful information. Kelly and Lily, thank you for sharing it with us. We have about 7 minutes. This is your general contact information, but what I'd like to do is, and this is in the PowerPoint, which is part of one of your handouts, so you'll have this available to you attendees. But what I'd like to do now is to take some questions. We have a few minutes, and we have Kathleen. Kathleen, if you want to come on. I know you've been monitoring the questions that have been coming in, and if you can share some of them with us or propose them to Kelly and Lily, and we can answer a few, hopefully.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Kathleen Walker from the DDA Eastern Shore Regional Office. I'm a family coordinator. So we have so many great questions, a lot which were kind of answered throughout the PowerPoint, but I think I'll just read off a few. And again, if you don't feel like your question was answered, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will try to also, since there were so many questions, maybe compile a list so that we can address anything that we missed. We had a question that there's a situational question. A person said that my child has a job that provides a pension plan, and she also has the ability to use a 403B plan. Can she still be able to contribute to ABLE?
She is able to make contributions to her own ABLE account. She just wouldn't qualify for the able to work contributions. That's that amount above and beyond the $15,000, because she does, since she's working, she does, meet that part of the eligibility. But because she has a pension plan that she's contributing to, a 40, I don't know if you said 403 or 401.
Yeah, 403.
Contributions to that, she wouldn't be eligible to make those able to work contributions.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Also, do the contributions need to be made during the calendar tax year to be deductible, or as long as by April 15th as the IRA?
I believe that the contributions are going to be made during the calendar year, and then you're going to receive a statement, usually in February, that tells you that the maximum, the contributions that were made to the ABLE account. It is for that calendar year.
Okay, thank you. We have another great question. Is it better to use the ABLE account or the rep payee account as the primary transactional account?
That's really just a very individualized and personal question. I've seen families do it different ways. I know that you can't make direct deposits of those SSI funds into an ABLE account if you have an ALR. But if you have a rep payee. If you don't have a rep payee, you can choose to put that money there. But really, it's just such an individualized question. It's just going to depend on the family and the self-advocate's needs. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you. Are you able to withdraw money from the ABLE account, such as in cash form?
The prepaid card does not work as like an ATM. No.
Okay, great. We had a lot of those questions. All right. There's several questions. What happens to the funds if the owner of the ABLE account passes away?
So if the ABLE account holder passes away, the money in the ABLE account can be rolled over to an ABLE account if they have a family member, a sibling, a step sibling, a spouse that has an ABLE account. But if there is no one that has an ABLE account or isn't eligible for an ABLE account, then that money in the ABLE account would become part of the person's estate and would be subject to whatever the estate rules are.
Kelly, thank you. Kathleen, I think if we can just take one more.
One more?
And then we'll have to close it.
Perfect. So we had a lot of questions about what are the qualifying expenses, but you went through the list. So I just wanted to make sure that there are just several questions about that. And I think we'll just finish with everyone. There's several questions of the copy of the slides. Is that going to be available, and is it going to be sent afterwards? After this webinar closes?
As far as I know, they're already, so the PowerPoint is already loaded into the handout section. Donna, are we going to be emailing this out as well?
No, I think everybody usually gets them, but if you want to email me, I'm Donna, DONNA.will, WILL, @maryland.gov. So send me an email and I will follow up with the person that asked that question.
And Marianne, you
yes.
also post this on the website, correct?
Yes, this will be posted on the DDA website. Yes. So with that, I want to thank Kelly I want to thank Lily. This was just, again, a wonderful webinar, and the information is just so important, so relevant, and thank you for sharing it with us today. I also want to thank Kathleen for being here and monitoring the questions, and Donna, as always, for making this webinar possible, and of course, Deputy Director Bernard Simons and Patricia Sostoki for supporting the community practice in hosting these webinars. And I hope you'll join us for our next webinar on March 24th at noon. We will be doing a presentation on DDA behavioral supports. Excited about our guest, Dr. Meg DePasquale here at DDA, Dr. Monica McCall with Creative Options, and Dr. Melinda Elliott, who is a parent. So we're hoping for a wonderful discussion, and I hope you'll join us. Otherwise, thank you and have a great day and be safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.